People in adult conversations don't talk about dinosaurs enough / anymore.
Love that.
And I used to be obsessed with them when I was younger. Again, that's a bit nerdy as well, but
I kind of love the joy of like being slightly nerdy. Like,
yeah. Hello and welcome to the Shirt Team podcast with me, Heather Steele. Today I'm joined by Polly Sayer and Sherri Andrew. Morning.
Good morning.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you.
So straight in to new and noteworthy. Polly, I'm going to come to you first, mainly just because I'm really nosy and I really want to hear about Copenhagen Fashion Week, which you were at 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, was
A
it
week
last?
ago?
I've kind of lost track, but yeah, I think it was last week.
Yes.
It was really fun, thank you. Copenhagen's always such a like sunny, like as in by kind of personality, quite a sunny, happy city, but it was actually sunny and warm this time,
nice.
Which makes such a difference when you're going to Fashion Week because
I'm sure.
you don't sort of dress for like practicality necessarily. So it was nice to be able to like actually put on some fun clothes and not be like cold to my bones. Yeah, and Copenhagen as a city is like so different in the sunshine.
Yeah,
like,
I've only ever been in a December, like November time, which is gorgeous, but I would really like to go one summer.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And I'm sure you know very well, like the food scene's great there. That's obviously not the reason I went, but it's a nice perk.
Yeah,
like,
a nice side extra.
nice side. So I went to a couple of nice places. But the fashion was great as always. Some really cool shows. I think my favourites, Bauman Ferdgarten.
Oh yes, I've loved that stuff for a while.
Yeah.
It's nice to see it suddenly.
Yeah, their shows
everywhere.
are like, you know, the ones I've been to have always been great, but this one was, I don't know, just really sick. It was in like a football stadium outside, and it was all quite kind of sporty core, which is very me. They had these like football shaped bags that actually looked like footballs, but they were like bejeweled. So that was quite,
that's
like,
cool.
That's
on the
nice.
nose. But yeah, I liked it. Lots of kind of like sporty shirts like this with some quite feminine touches, so that juxtaposition was really nice. Guestoos was also really cool. I feel like they do sort of that kind of tough like leathers femininity combo very well. So yeah, it was nice to see what's kind of coming up next year and also get really inspired by the street style. I always come away just feeling really like I don't know, just reignites my like love for it.
Yeah, I don't know, I haven't been to a fashion week, but I feel like if I was going to go to any and really enjoy one, it would be Copenhagen. Like it feels like really fun.
It's probably the most inclusive of like influencers, I suppose. Whereas like the like, you know, London, Paris, New York, Milan are still quite sort of journalist heavy with some, you know, maybe quite top tier influencers there. Someone actually messaged me while I was there and said, so you go to Fashion Week, you get your photo taken, you get given some clothes to wear, you go to fashion shows. Why? But I was kind of like, you have a point.
Yeah.
Like, so I guess like for people that don't know, it's, you know, brands show their collections that are upcoming for the like next year. So we were looking at SS25. So it's a good opportunity for like not just influencers, but, you know, journalists and buyers to go and see what's kind of coming up for next year and what they might be looking to wear or buy for their store.
Surely it's brilliant. I was going to say, surely it's brilliant for meeting people and networking and I guess showcasing the city a bit as well. It felt like there was definitely an event at Noma that I saw that went on with one of the fashion brands and stuff. So it feels like it's a good.
The parties are fun, like for sure. And I can't believe I didn't even mention Rotate. Okay, Rotate was probably my favourite show, to be honest. Yeah,
what was good about that one?
It's very like dressy, Rotate. As you know, like the dresses are quite, you know, big sleeves, mini dresses. And I don't know, I think for me personally, maybe that's what I want to see from a fashion show. It's just like, yeah, that's really fun. It was outside in some beautiful gardens outside a library, I think. Yeah, it was really cool.
Oh, amazing. And then in terms of Copenhagen itself, have you got any quick recommendations for anyone who might be going?
I have always loved Bottega Bali. I think that's a really, really nice restaurant. I didn't get to go this time. There's also Delphine, which is like a really beautiful picturesque place. The food is also very good. I think that's one thing with Copenhagen, I've like never eaten badly.
Yes, I'm sure.
It's just like excellent. We went to Apollo, which was really good food. They do a kind of like almost like a tasting menu where it's like a set price and then they just bring out like a bit of everything. But then there's also a burger joint called Gasoline Grill.
Yes.
Which is my next point. It's just like a takeout place. They just do excellent burgers. And I think it's been kind of hailed as like the best burger in Europe.
Yeah.
I would kind of agree with. It's absolutely delicious, and they tend to like sell out of like stuff by the end of the day.
That's
so
what
I'd say
I've
like
heard.
get there early
Yeah.
enough. But if you can't get to Copenhagen, they are doing a pop-up at the Standard.
Yes, they are.
I think until the 15th of September.
Yes, we put that in a couple of weekend roundups. Yes,
that's really cool.
Yeah, which is really cool. And if you're, I know, do you know what? I don't even eat like a lot of red meat, but their burgers are just very good. They do chicken burgers and veggie ones as well, if that's more your thing. But I will definitely be going down to the Standard to go and get my hands on one of those.
They look, when they just look really messy, and you're like, ooh, but you just know it's going to be really good.
So good.
That's what they
those
look
are the best
like.
Kinds.
Totally. Yeah, it is just delicious. I'm yet to try their chips though, because every time I've been, they're like, we've sold out chips, and I'm just like,
they must be good then.
Why you break my heart like that? You know?
Sold out chips.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
King's Cross, here we come.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you guys gonna go?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
Great trip.
You'd ask me twice. Yeah. And then changing the subject entirely, I've been loving Love is Blind UK.
Ooh.
What are your thoughts?
Who's hosting first?
Emma Willis and Matt
Okay,
Willis.
that makes sense.
Yeah, they're actually very good.
I think they work really well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to have it as a believable married couple hosting.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure what to think of the UK version before watching it, because there's been some mixed reviews about whether it works or not, but I have to say I'm hook, line and sinker.
Have you seen the whole thing?
No, I haven't completely binged it yet. I'm trying to like just slowly, because I do this to myself every time, like binge it, and then I'm like, oh, why did I do that?
Yeah,
like,
It's over so quickly.
Yeah. No, I'm only
so-
asking because as soon as it was out, I watched the first half because
Yeah.
they kind of dropped it in two
Yeah.
goes. So I've watched all of the first half, but I haven't seen
all
the
of
sort
the
of
second
kick
half.
off once they've all actually started meeting each other as a group, which I think is actually probably the
That's
better bit,
the best
isn't
bit.
it?
I actually don't even find the pods that good. As in,
No.
like, I almost feel like you have to push past the pods
Yes.
bit, and then once you get into the like, they're in the outside world, they've met each other, they start mingling in the group together. That's when the real juice starts.
Is it just as dramatic as the US version?
It's pretty dramatic, yeah.
Ooh.
Like, you know, this is generalizing slightly. You don't get the kind of like American, like loud, you know, dramatic stuff. But there are some, you know, some dramatic people in it for sure. And I do think there's one couple in particular. I'm convinced. I think Ollie is going to break Demi's heart.
Really?
I just feel it.
I can get that sense. So again, having not watched much of the or haven't watched any of the second half, but it was one of those classic ones where I think, from what I remember, he proposed or sort of he was talking to two women at once, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he preferred one of them, and then she kind of put a pause on it, and then he went back into like where all the lad pad, whatever it is, and was. He was like, "Oh, it's over." She took it really well, and it was like, "Hang on, it was her
You got
decision,
broken
not
up with.
yours."
Yeah.
So
Male
he's kind of
pride.
spun
Sneaky.
this narrative, and then went with this other woman who's lovely, like great.
Yeah, she's great.
But you also kind of feel like,
is she
I
second
guess,
choice?
yeah, and she didn't know any of that either. So I guess when they all
No.
meet, it's probably going to come out at some stage. That
And I just
see.
don't
That
feel like
happened.
they're all over each other in the way that like not that it's all about that, but I do feel like in like early stages of relationships, you just want to shag each other.
I was going to say,
and they haven't shagged.
in
and I'm just
previous ones, it feels like the people who do have that sexual chemistry
Yeah.
do kind of go the distance a
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
more. Not always.
you know, maybe he's genuine, but it was Ollie, the guy, being like, oh, I just think, you know, we should focus on not that, because, you know, that might become everything, and it's not all about that. I'm trying to change my like view, and I'm kind of like,
Which sounds
okay,
very
if you're-
noble.
very noble,
Yeah.
but I'm also like, I don't know. If I know
Bit
men.
sceptical.
Yeah, slightly suspicious.
Yeah. I spoke to someone at the weekend actually at a party, and he is, I can't remember if it was him or his partner, who was a producer on Love is Blind.
really?
Ooh.
And I was like asking him some questions and stuff. So I'm like, so what do they do? Like, because I've tried stalking all the cast members, obviously, to see if they're still together, but they are told that they can't follow each other or post about their partner at all
I
until
guess,
the
yeah,
show is like
that makes
done.
total sense.
Yeah, which must be hard because apparently it was all filmed like a year ago.
Yes.
So yeah, it must
That
be
is-
like
yeah.
tricky because
Yes, that makes sense because they won't take too many internet sleuths to like work
No.
stuff out with who's following who.
Yeah,
Yeah,
who's
and it
what.
would spoil it all a bit.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting.
Interesting.
And then how I just think like as well the kind of success rate that they have with their couples, like they just have enough couples who want to marry each other at the start to then make a show because you know, as we watch from like I don't know, like first dates and things like that, like I don't know, it's just, you know, you can instantly get the ick with someone quite quickly on a first date.
Like all the science of the matchmaking can be really on point, but actually it doesn't always work.
Yeah, but he made a good point, this guy that I spoke to, that often with like first dates and stuff, it's very easy to just like decide that, no, that person's not for me within seconds, but they all, because they're there for like 10 days in these pods, all date each other at first, and then they rank each other based on like, you know, who's this person I want to have another date with. So one person might be like, I definitely want to have another date with this person, but maybe the other one hasn't ranked them as high, but you still have to go on another date, so you have to persist with it, which gives you the opportunity to then maybe develop something that wouldn't have otherwise been there, because first date might not
dismiss them too quickly sometimes.
The slow burn is allowed to happen.
Exactly, which
very
makes
important.
me think, you know, perhaps, you know, that's something we should all think about. Like dating generally is like not write someone off immediately for a first date. Like try and it could be a slow burner.
I think that's sensible.
Yeah,
very sensible. I need to go next. So I've been reading quite a lot recently, and a book I really wanted to recommend is Long Island Compromise by Taffy Brodesser Ackner. So she is a writer for the New York Times, and excellent writer out in the States, but she wrote, I can't remember if you remember it, it's called Fleischman is in Trouble. It was a book that came out, I think, like 5 or 6 years ago, and it's her first book. Taffy's written a new book that came out a month ago. It's sort of similar. It's set on Long Island, and it's a sort of family drama, but it starts in the 80s. Carl is this very wealthy man. He's a business owner. He's very, you know, lives in a lovely neighborhood. He's got a couple of kids and a wife, and this happens straight away, and it's on the back of the book. So no spoilers, but he basically gets kidnapped for 3 days, doesn't know where he is. His wife's got to sort of drive around like with ransom money and the kids in the back of the car to try and get him back, and then he's suddenly returned unharmed 3 days later, and the family just try and move on with their lives. But then the book properly starts in present day, where each of his 3 kids are kind of who they are now, but they've all been shaped in some way or form by this kidnapping, and it's them sort of talking about succession and inheritance, but each kid sort of mucked up in various different ways. So it is quite Succession-like, but it's like speaks to lots of wider themes. But then there is this sort of kidnapping element that runs through the book, because you don't ever find out until right at the end who kidnapped him, because he never knows. And then you're just like really getting to the end of it being like, okay, everyone sort of made a bit of peace, or there's some resolution here, and then like right at the end it just like chucks in who was the kidnapper. So it was really good. It was quite a thick hardback, so probably not a beach read, because you'd be sort of schlepping it round, but really worth reading, I would say. It was very gripping.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, it was good. Would recommend. And then another thing I wanted to talk about, Charlotte actually sent me this feature over the weekend. It was in the Sunday Times, and it's the 100 best-selling books of the past 50 years. And it's not just fiction, it's a bit of everything. So it's got cookbooks in. It's got, you know, Rosemary Connolly, that like fitness guru of the 80s. So it's got like Rosemary Connolly's legs, thighs, and tums and bums, and like how to.
Some of it is so dated now.
Yeah, it's excellent. Honestly,
crazy that's still on there.
Oh,
like,
here we go.
50.
Rosemary Connolly's Inch Lost Plan. Like, she must have sold so many copies. This is still in the top 100.
Yeah, I think in the top 5 as well was Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus.
Yes, that was number 2.
I reminds me of Clueless.
Yeah.
Do you remember in the film? She's like,
of course.
Here's the book.
It's the one.
Delia Smith's in there, isn't
Delia's
she?
made the cut.
Go on, Delia.
Unsurprisingly, Richard Osmond has made the cut with 2, I think, of his Thursday Murder Club books, which again,
Good for
considering.
Good for him. Controversial opinion. I didn't like them at all.
I was speaking to someone about this weekend. I think it's one of those. Some people
quite divisive.
are like, not for me, but they're easy to read. They're pacey, but I mean, he just keeps going and going, doesn't he?
That's good for him, though.
The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. Can you remember? It came out in 2006. It was like this, like
That rings a bell.
It's
yes, it was like a Da Vinci Code.
but it was kind of like, I think it was like a sort of self-help book that just was like absolutely massive. But yeah, that I remember everyone talking about it at the time.
Yes,
that's in there. Some Jeremy Clarkson.
Surely, Harry Potter's in there.
Harry Potter is in there.
I was quite surprised not to see any of the 50 Shades.
Yes, exactly.
Series in
I
there,
thought
'cause
that.
I remember when it was at the peak of its like popularity.
Yeah.
It felt like
everywhere.
everyone was reading them.
Actually, it's like Twilight for
I was
adults.
going to say Twilight, a couple of Twilights are in here, but maybe not as many people read 50 Shades as everyone made out. They
maybe
were
just
the
bought
film.
one and then passed it around their friends.
Reading this, there was some Bill Brysons in there, and there was some Adrian Mole books, which I absolutely loved. But that got me thinking recently, another book I've been reading, so I feel like Long Island Compromise is like, it's not highbrow, but it's like a new weighty sort of hardback. But I finished that and then immediately started reading Fire and Blood, which is a George R.R. Martin book, because I watched all of House of the Dragon, which is the Game of Thrones spin-off, which I really enjoyed. But I think what made me really enjoy it more is that I discovered a podcast on The Ringer, which is an amazing American culture website where they're all just massive, and I say this with love, but like massive geeks. Like they know their like series, like and their books and their comics and everything. They just live and breathe it. But two brilliant women called Mallory Rubenstein and Joanna Robinson do this podcast called House of R. And basically, I don't know how I really got into this, but after every episode of House of the Dragon, they record a 3-hour podcast just about that episode that brings in all the lore.
3 hours of chat about a 1 hour episode.
But that's what I said. I was like, I'm not listening to this. Anyway, got hooked. And then was like almost looking forward to the podcast more than the episode. But they always did a bit at the end of each podcast that was like the book look ahead. And I did read all the Game of Thrones books when they were out, apart from, he still needs to write more basically. And instead he's writing all these other ones, including Fire and Blood. But yeah, I've caved, and last week I bought Fire and Blood, so I'm now very much reading the very nitty-gritty history of the House of Targaryen and loving it.
They're so complex, aren't they?
Really
with, like
complex.
All the different like interwoven stories and characters. It's like Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
It's quite hard to keep up sometimes.
It is. Yeah. I'm loving it, but I'm not like reading much at a time because it's quite
like you need a minute to kind of wait, who's that?
Exactly. Well, they're all called Aegon and like they've all got the same name, so you're like, hang on, which one's this? But it made me think, I basically feel like the last year or two, I've suddenly kind of started reconnecting with stuff I used to love when I was a kid. Like I used to love like those proper fantasy novels and like the Philip Pullman books. And like we said, like I reread the Bill Brysons and the Adrian Mole books a couple of years ago. But I've just been sort of enjoying going back to things, even music that I was liking sort of 20 years ago. So I was just wondering if either of you two had anything similar that you sort of rediscovered more recently.
Discovered? That's a good question.
I think for me, music's definitely been that kind of nostalgia element for me. I went to Glastonbury this year and my favourite bit was seeing Avril Lavigne.
That's the bit that I was like, I'd love to have been there for that.
And
so
like,
nostalgic.
I cried like quite a lot during her set. It just hit me somewhere where, like, it hit me in some recess of my brain where like when I was 11 and loved her like a die-hard fan. Just like it touched me somewhere, and I was just like, really surprised me like how emotional I got watching it, because I was kind of like, am I going to be as bothered by this as an adult? I don't know, maybe music has a way of doing that.
I think so.
Or maybe just like any kind of art form, like really hits us in us.
I think that's what it is. You just like have this little bit of it. I think when we're teenagers as well, like, or personally, I just was such a sponge for soaking up information and getting really passionate about something, whether it's music or anything. So it's kind of reignites it.
What did you like? I feel like I was way more obsessive about like a few specific topics when I was a kid. Whereas now I'm not like, I just kind of like a lot of different things.
I don't really have that obsession anymore.
That's what
teenage
I think
hysteria.
It's kind of sweet, like being like so into like one or two things. Maybe it's because like an adult you have this kind of, like I don't want anyone to think I'm weird for like really being into like something that's not weird. It's just having passions about things, and you're a kid, you're sort of less inhibited. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. Sherri, have you got any obsessions?
Obsessions. Okay, this is very off-piste, but I was saying to my friends the other day, people in adult conversations don't talk about dinosaurs enough / anymore.
Love that.
And I used to be obsessed with them when I was younger, thanks to Jurassic Park. This is
I mean,
different ends of the scale.
No, you're talking to the right person.
I actually respect that.
But in terms of like the science of it, I find like so fascinating. And even the most recent Jurassic Park films, all the dinosaurs look completely different because the science has changed over the last like 40, 50 years. They know what they actually look like compared to when like the first one came out.
That is a very good point.
Why don't we talk about like it seems like they're only for kids. Like only kids can like them.
That's a good point.
I have a good fact about some dinosaurs.
Oh, please.
So we are closer in time to the T-Rex than the Stegosaurus was to the T-Rex.
So that blows my mind.
Yeah.
That is mental, isn't it?
Because it was like 65 million years ago, something like that.
You kind of just like group them all together. Like, that's the dinosaur age.
They were over such a long period of time.
That was nuts.
But
it's fascinating. But to what you were saying about like learning, we don't really learn anymore unless you're doing a course or you're still at university or whatever. We don't really have that. So a non-fiction book about dinosaurs or something that's so like off-piste or just some kind of history.
Natural History Museum for a later section.
Yes, exactly. And I feel like I used to feel like you could only really go if you had like kids to go with or family members who are younger, but I was like, no, just go and learn about dinosaurs. So I'm kind of tapping into, again, it's a bit nerdy as well, but
no, I think it's not. It is. I kind of love the joy of like being slightly nerdy. Like, I went to a bird of prey experience about a year ago with my mum, and like I was like, this is painfully nerdy, but like it was just so joyous. And the volunteers there who kind of took the session were like so sweet and nerdy. Like clearly loved the birds and were so knowledgeable, but you just couldn't help but feel like they were just so infectious. They just like loved it. And I kind of felt like, it is cool to be like really into something and be really knowledgeable about
have a niche,
have a niche. So
Birds of prey, dinosaurs and dragons. Here we go. We thought we'd be talking about that on the podcast today. Very quickly from me, I went on a press trip to Somerset about a month ago, and we stayed at Durslade Farmhouse, which is basically part of Hauser and Worth, which have lots of different exhibitions and galleries across, well, there's loads in America, but they've got a couple in the UK. But it's basically an amazing farm. They've got a farm shop, they make their own wine, but they've got this amazing farmhouse that you can rent. You can either stay in the bedrooms there or you can rent as a whole, but it's so gorgeous. Just want to put it on people's radars if you're looking for any accommodation in Somerset. It's the same lot who look after the Five Farms up in Scotland, which is this beautiful hotel. But because the founders are just massive art collectors, they've got all these just incredible paintings all over the wall. They've got artists to come in and actually paint, like hand paint the wallpaper. So cool. But it's just so really cool. Relaxed. Like you can help yourself to breakfast. They can come and cook a dinner for you so that you can basically do as little or as much sort of cooking as you like. But because they've got this amazing farmhouse shop as well. Like all the produce, honestly, is amazing.
And it's tasty. That sounds so
nice. Good. And it's got this gorgeous garden and an art exhibition centre there as well. So if you're looking for a Somerset escape, I would heartily recommend it. That leads on nicely to a Somerset recommendation you've got, Sherri.
Yeah, Somerset's having a moment.
So I think it's been brewing for a few years, but it's definitely
having it. Yeah, agreed. So Lam and I went to home in Somerset in South Petherton, I think that's how you say it, which was so lovely. And it's by the chef Nicholas Balfe, who is the nicest man I've ever met. He is just so welcoming and such a legend. But he looks after, or his group looks after Levan in Peckham and also Salon in Brixton. So if you know those restaurants, it's real like farm to table dining, very like seasonal fresh produce. It's a restaurant with rooms and it's in a tiny village. There's really not much there. There's this restaurant and then the pub next door. I would say drive there if you can. We went by train and it was a bit tricky to get there, but so worth it. And you kind of like go into the restaurant and they greet you there and it's straight up to the room. So I think it's about 10 bedrooms. They're all really light filled, just like beautiful interiors, very chic, very modern. And the whole experience is so immersive. Once you've been in your room, they give you some like homemade cookies. And they say, dinner's at 7, like come down whenever you're ready, have a drink in the garden. It's got beautiful gardens.
So nice.
And then we had like a 3-hour tasting course, which was just so lovely. Love a tasting menu, especially when it's summer and all like the best fruit and vegetable, sort of my favourite fruit and veg comes into season, and it was so like unexpected. So we had a ricotta tortellini, which was so good. We had like a kind of cheese and pickle snack, which was like toast with, I think it was like Gruyere or some kind of cheese on top, and then pickle almost in the middle. So it had the flavours of it, but the textures were so different. That was tasty. We had lamb hogget, and then one of my favourite dishes was, is it a scrappino? Is that how you say it? So it was peach sorbet, and then instead of pouring wine over, they had like local cider. And it was just so refreshing, just a small like palate cleanser.
That's lovely.
And also, when you're sat down, Nick, the chef, will like bring over all most of the dishes for you, and he was like chatting to everyone, so it felt like you get the real experience because it's very small. You really feel like you're having. I don't know, it felt really special. Like
sounds really personalised and relaxed.
Exactly, very personalised. And then you have the same in the morning. He'll like make your breakfast for you.
That's nice.
And we just left feeling really. Feeling like very lucky that we got to go there, and that's such a beautiful part of the UK, and the food was amazing. Very nice way to spend the weekend. Yeah, it was really nice.
I think it'd be quite nice and cozy like in the winter as well.
Yes, I was saying I can't wait to come back in like November, December. They had like a fire.
Yes.
That'd be cozy vibes. Go to the pub next door, have a pint. Lovely.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
great.
Really nice.
Ooh, lovely recommendation.
And then the other thing I wanted to recommend was also a book, and I know you read this.
Yeah.
It's Shy Creatures by Claire Chambers, who is one of my favourite writers that I've discovered in like the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Her first book, Small Pleasures, came out, I think, during lockdown in 2020. Really? She sets her books in usually South London in like the 50s and the 60s, and it's a very like, I would say it's like a domestic novel. Is that
Yeah, I'd say so.
And not a huge amount happens in terms of the plot, but the way she writes is so beautiful, and you really get a sense of like you're transported into this world. So Shy Creatures is set in, I think it's like 1964, I want to say, in Croydon. And it's about a woman called Helen who is working as a art therapist in a psychiatric hospital. And she's been having an affair with this man. This is not a spoiler, this happens very early on. She's been having an affair with this guy called Girl, who is one of the lead doctors there. And one day they get a call and they say, this man has been found in a house near to the hospital. He's got a beard down to his feet, basically. He's basically running around naked, and he's really unwell. He needs to come in. Then the story unfolds about them discovering who this man is, what happened to him. So half of the plot is from Helen's point of view. She's having this affair. She's living in this flat that he has essentially bought for her, and she's feeling a little bit stuck. Stuck in life, stuck at work. And then this very dramatic thing happens in the workplace, and then it all unfolds. And he's been living with his 2 elderly aunts, and he's essentially been a recluse for the last, you don't know how long in the beginning. Could be 10 years, could be 20 years, hasn't left the house in a long time.
And he's mute as well, isn't he? So he can't really tell his story or answer any questions.
Exactly. So she does some bit of detective work and tries to find people from his past and find out who he is. She finds out that he's an amazing artist. So he's like great illustrations, and I haven't finished it yet, but I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and I'm just really, really enjoying it.
Enjoy, savour it, because
it's so
like her other book, it's a satisfying ending, I'd say.
Okay, that's good.
And this one's called Shy Creatures.
Shy Creatures, yeah.
Okay.
They're just really beautifully written, aren't they? And I think
written.
both women are kind of unconventional for the time. Like a lot is made of them both being sort of shock horror. I think they're like 29 and both of them are unmarried, and people are like, oh, that's just such shocking behaviour, you need to settle down, sort of thing. But they're really complex, and obviously both very talented at their respective things, and kind of want to make a difference in the world, which I think is nice to read about.
So highly recommend as well.
How cool. That sounds really good.
Good
book. My list.
And then also, oh gosh, I've been itching to talk to someone about this. It Ends With Us, the film.
Did you watch it?
I haven't seen it, but I wasn't going to watch it anyway. I didn't want to just watch it for the sake of it, because there's been so much drama, off-screen drama.
So much.
And I'm not the biggest Blake Lively fan. Not of her as a person, nothing against her. I haven't really seen much of stuff that she's been in. I kind of wanted to read the book first.
Have you read the book?
I've not read the book, no.
Okay.
The book is actually on that list of 100 bestsellers of the last 50 years. Because it was a TikTok phenomenon, wasn't it?
It really was. So it's a box office hit. It's only been in the cinemas for the last 2 weeks. It's already earned £50 million. So the plot centres on Lily Bloom, who's played by Blake Lively, who escapes a rough childhood, opens her dream flower store, and soon meets her seemingly dream guy Ryle, who then, this is not a spoiler, turns out to be extremely violent. And then the story is about her trying to escape being in a domestic abuse relationship. However, there has been, so that's the essential plot, but there's been so much off-screen drama.
Yeah.
So it's quite confusing. I literally had to write this down to get my head around what's been going on.
You're doing good work here, because I feel like I've seen lots floating around.
My notes.
I'm doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to say though, I did listen to the Shameless podcast, which is one of my favourites. But if you're into pop culture or anything like that, they go into really, really minute detail about everything. So this is only an overview of what they've kind of. So Justin Baldoni, who you probably will know from Jane the Virgin. So he was like the main character in that. I hadn't really seen anything else that he's been in. So he plays one of the lead characters, Ryle. He bought the rights to Colleen Hoover's book to adapt it. So this is like his main project. And then Blake Lively was brought on to play Lily, the other lead character, but she is also an executive producer. So it's quite unusual to have two main characters who are also starring, producing, and directing the whole thing. You would think they would bring someone else on to do those things, but no, it's all in-house. And then there's been a lot of backlash against Blake for the way she's been promoting the film. People have criticised her for failing to address the film's seriousness. So during her promo, she hasn't really been talking about domestic violence so much, which is the core theme here. She has touched on it, to be fair to her. But Justin, on the other hand, that's been his main message. And she's been calling it like a fun summer movie. And during the promotion... that's in context of a longer quote as well. I'm just, paraphrasing. She's also been pushing her new hair care brand, which is called Blake Brown. She has also been promoting it alongside her husband's film. So Ryan Reynolds is in the new Deadpool Wolverine film with Hugh Jackman. So the three of them have been getting a lot of promo shots together. And people have been like, this isn't like the Barbieheimer hype. This is very much like its own film. Like, let's just focus on one thing at a time, which, to be fair, is like a very minor critique. And then aside from that, so Justin Baldoni, there have been serious allegations against him. So the allegations state that he was abusive on set, with claims that some cast members, including Blake, were distancing themselves from him, which is obviously very serious. And Blake and Colleen Hoover now don't follow him on Instagram. They haven't done any like joint promo of the film together, so it's been very separate. Every time they've been asked about him, just like completely ignoring it as if it doesn't exist. So something serious has gone down.
Yeah.
And then what's really interesting is that Baldoni has now hired Johnny Depp's lawyer who represented him during his trial to ex-wife Amber Heard.
That's what I saw end of last week, and I think that's sort of raised a few eyebrows, hasn't it?
Raised a few eyebrows, particularly because, so my take on this is that Blake is getting dragged. If you've seen anything on TikTok or Instagram, anyone who's talking about this film is saying how Blake is such an awful person. She's so vapid. She's so shallow. She's promoting her hair care brand.
Yeah.
Which I think there is an argument to be said about that. But I personally haven't seen any criticism online about him per se, even though he is the one who has had these really serious allegations of abuse. People just haven't been very harsh to him to the same extent that they've been to Blake. And loads of her old videos of her doing interviews have resurfaced, where she has been a little bit mean. So not to say you've got to love Blake because she might be a quote unquote victim in this situation, but it doesn't seem to be a balanced argument. The podcast Shameless, they made a really interesting point in that when something like this happens, lots of bots will get into the narrative online and change what you actually see. So if you're engaging with posts that say, look, Blake is so annoying, she's done this, she's done that, you'll be fed more content based on your viewpoint, but they've been driving a narrative that is very one-sided. So basically use some critical thinking, and not everything that you see online is actually true to the numbers. For example, if one comment has 20,000 likes on a TikTok, half of those might be from nameless people who so it was just a reminder to like take everything with a pinch of salt,
isn't it? That
it's just sad that again there's a woman who is at the top of her game and in arguably one of the biggest films of the year who is just being like slated.
I was going to say it's interesting what you said, because I did see over the weekend there were people were just posting clips from like really old interviews, almost like they're like dredging through trying to find anything that sort of supported their argument that she's a terrible person.
It's like I do feel like women being rude or bitchy or whatever is just clearly way more offensive to people than men in like public positions being brusque or just a bit standoffish. That's just seen to be like, oh, that's just like how men behave or whatever. And I don't know what Blake is like. I don't know her personally. Maybe she is like that. But it feels like people will engage much more in that kind of content when it's to do with a woman. Like, she should be friendly and smiley and happy all the time, or
just
always
do her
nice
press tour and be really friendly,
like, sweet and whatever. But it's like, well, maybe she had a bad day.
I do think Blake is quite problematic. She did get married on a plantation. Lots of things that I see that I'm like, that's a bit problematic. But aside from this film, that's obviously very separate.
Yeah.
In terms of like the marketing of it. So super interesting.
Interesting.
I might watch it.
Yeah.
The film is like, and how good it is completely unrelated to all of the drama that's been kind of taking up most of the media space.
But it does feel like that is kind of just how things roll now, isn't it? Like the press tours become their own beast, don't they? Good and bad, and then it always sort of
quite reminiscent of the like "Don't Worry, Darling" drama
exactly.
as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Sort of overshadows whatever the film is about.
Again, I don't watch the film, but I know what's about because of the drama.
Exactly
Rightio. SL pick time. Polly, you chose a piece which is fixes for common makeup problems.
Yes, this feature is full of great advice. I mean, our beauty section always is, of course, but there are so many like common issues in here which I personally suffer with.
I know, I do love those pieces because it's such a good headline. You click through, you're like, crap, that's me.
Yeah, literally is. My main one is mascara smudging under my eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I get it. I mean, I almost certainly have it now.
I was going to say, I checked
you're
just
good.
before we came on and was like, yep, there it is.
Yeah, and I mean, I've asked around a bit about this, but I think the kind of advice varies. But it does say here this could be down to a couple of reasons. Not setting the concealer with a powder, apparently, and I actually don't do that. I'm kind of like averse to powders. I don't know why. I just like, I think because I've got quite dry skin, I prefer a bit of a more like dewy look. So I'm like, maybe I should try powder, but I'm a bit like,
I feel the same.
Like, I don't want to be kind of cakey, but I'm sure there are plenty of really good ones.
I also feel like sometimes, maybe I'm just old now, but sometimes like when I've got my makeup done for things, if they put powder in it, then just goes in all like the creases underneath, and then you're like, shit.
There are those triangular like powder puffs. You can get them from Amazon. They're really good because you can literally push it into the creases of your under eye.
Right.
I think on the last podcast I recommended the By Terry hyaluronic setting powder. That is the best. It doesn't dry your skin at all. It's really hydrating.
Okay,
thank you,
Sherri.
Sherri.
I'll do that. With the kind of creasing under your eyes, I think like I noticed in a couple of these, like an eye cream is just like what they recommend, and I feel like I should be. Again, that's something I'm not doing, is using an eye cream. Do you guys use eye cream?
I don't use an eye cream, no.
I do it like once and like, yes, eye cream time and then forget. Yeah.
And then I'm like, damn it,
but
I
think it's
do
again,
it.
like, I feel like sometimes otherwise I'm putting like too many like creams and lotions and potions on, and then when you go to put your makeup on, you then feel like you've got...
like sliding off.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the secret. End of the day, an eye cream, and then...
End of the day, that's it.
So maybe I'm going to invest in a powder and an eye cream. That's my takeaway from that. But there's, plenty of other tips in there. Fluffy brows that won't stay in shape, lipstick not going on smoothly, wonky eyeliner. Like if I guarantee, like if you've got a problem with your face makeup, there's a solution in there. So worth a read.
Amazing. Nice. We'll link that below for sure. Sherri?
So my SL pick, I mean, shout out to us. So the SL London Restaurant and Bar Awards are now live. Yay. And we've revealed the winners, which is so exciting. So we have done a whole amazing dedicated show that is now live. So you can watch that on YouTube or listen to it as a podcast. And there are so many amazing new restaurants, heroes that we love, bars, pubs, it's all in there. So it was a mammoth task.
It was.
I bet it was.
But we also had a jolly old time going around and eating lots of great food.
We
did,
someone's got to do it, haven't they?
Exactly.
We luckily went to some amazing restaurants. If you need some new inspiration on where to go, or if you just want to see us eat some delicious food, then head to YouTube.
Amazing. And the LGs, actually, I loved it. I mean, I love everything those guys do. But they did a TikTok on their 3 sort of LG picks and winners, which was awesome. So check that out as well.
Yes.
I'm just going to very quickly mention there was a piece that we did in the travel section where we interviewed the founder of, Bettina Ceramica, that amazing, her mother's Italian, she's based in London, but she finds all these sort of old designs and old makers in Italy who do like really traditional initial amazing homeware things, and then she's just created these really lovely collections of things. But she did a sort of insider's guide with us to Liguria, which is where her mum's from, and she sort of specifically mentions Camogli, again sorry about my accent, and Portofino, and like lots of lovely little towns and villages and gorgeous walks and restaurants and hotels all in that area, which I feel it's not neglected at all, but it's definitely not like everyone was sort of like going to Tuscany and the Amalfi Coast and like lots of other areas in Italy. I feel like maybe this one's not quite as well visited, but I was sort of pulling all of that together, and I was like, yes, that is on my list for next year.
Cool.
Like,
nice.
yeah, so if you're looking for a slightly alternative holiday, I would recommend reading Natalie's piece on the site. It was
exciting.
Nice little guide. And then finally, we've got some community questions. We're going to do our community deep dive. Polly, one for you from one of our lovely readers who replied to the shout out on Instagram. What's on your autumn winter wish list?
Ooh, yeah.
Nice question.
Do you know what? Like, it's all sort of shifted in the last week. I asked me a week ago and I'd be like, I'm in denial. It's not autumn soon. I'm not interested. I'm seeing a lot of good newness, and I think there's lots of lovely suede around at the moment, but not just in kind of like brown, but like khaki suede. I'm quite into. I've been like into khaki for a little while, but I think like there's an Under the Stories khaki blazer that I'm quite excited about. They've also got a really nice sort of cropped trench as well. I think cropped trenches are going to have a bit of a moment. I mean kind of like waist length rather than knee length. I still think knee length was quite bad for trenches. It's got to either be like long or like cropped.
Okay, good
personally.
Proportions.
But yeah, this one from Stories is a kind of almost like a bomber shape, but in trench material.
Cool.
So very excited about that. And then just knitwear generally.
Bring it
Cannot
on.
wait to get the knitwear.
I know. I mean, like, I have a lot of good knits that I'm can't wait to wheel out again. Cos has got a really great cashmere chunky knit. I've got it in beige last season, and they've brought it out in khaki, which looks beautiful. Nice. I'm also quite into the idea of getting some like deck shoes. I know they've been kind of like around in the summer, but I think it would be quite a good transitional shoe. So yeah, might go out and have a little look for some of those.
Nice.
Oh, I'm excited already.
I know. Yeah. When you said knitwear, I was like,
picture interest.
Something to look forward to. Sherri, somebody has asked you, where should they go in Europe late October time for a bit of warmth and a bit of culture?
Oh, I would say Montenegro is having a real moment. It really is so beautiful. So it's in between Albania and Croatia. So you kind of hit that sweet spot of delicious food, great weather. The it's kind of like Croatia in terms of landscape. It's so beautiful. You can go kayaking. You can go to all the small little restaurants. I mean, it's got great beaches. It has everything that you would expect from somewhere like Greece, but it's a little bit less. It's a little bit more untouched. Yeah, and some beautiful hotels there as well. Yeah, so that's a good one.
My best friend got engaged there actually, really? And yeah, it looked absolutely stunning.
Oh yeah, just the pictures. It's
it does look absolutely stunning, and it is quite cool to sort of say that you've been somewhere that's a bit like
but cool.
ubiquitous.
Yeah, it's like 5 years time, everyone will be like, we've all been. At the moment. I feel like that'd be a nice time of year to go as well.
Yes,
not
it's still warm.
Hot.
Yeah, or Stockholm as well. It's not so warm in October, but it's so beautiful when the autumn colours like hit. Oh, it's just the best.
I loved Stockholm when I went. Actually, it's a really cool city, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Yeah.
You wrote a feature on Montenegro as well, a little guide that went last week.
Exactly.
So we'll make sure to include that in the links as well. And then finally, somebody has asked, I don't think they asked me specifically, but I'm going to take it on, for some fun nail ideas that don't make you look like a teenager.
Can I just say, I love that you've got the bracelet matching with your nails.
So
it
Look
does.
at the little beads.
Basically, so I've been going to, I never used to get my nails done. There you go, Sherri.
I love that. So
never used to get my nails done at all. And then ahead of a very good friend of mine's hen do last year, which was just to bring it all full circle, dinosaur themed, because she's obsessed with Jurassic Park. So she also likes
so niche.
silly fun stuff and does not like any of like the sort of girly hen do things. So we were like, well, let's just go very much the other way. It was basically, I think at the end she was like, I loved it because it was like a 5-year-old boy's birthday party. But there's a place around the corner from me called True Nail Art, which has got quite big recently for doing nail art, obviously. Yeah, I just had some green nails and then 1 or 2 of them were dinosaurs.
It was so cute.
Like by the time I got them off, my nails were just the best they'd ever been because I'd never really used gel before. Yeah. Shocker. So I used to do them myself. So from there on, I was like, I'm just going to get them done every month.
They are really cool.
But
I love your commitment to now getting them done every month.
I'm like, no, it's got to happen. But no, I've had like various different things. I think the dinosaurs are probably the silliest ones. But I think you can do so many little things. These ones basically match a bracelet I've got, which is like a little red orb with some blue and white dots on, which sounds hideous, but they're quite fun. But I was basically
it's a bit like Evil Eye.
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah. And actually, when I went to Greece, I did get some Evil Eye ones. So sometimes I theme them, sometimes I don't. But if you don't want to go full on,
I think it's nice to get like an accent nail, isn't it? Like
exactly.
it's just kind of like, you know, you just want to dip your toe in, maybe on like your ring finger or your thumb or something.
Exactly. I think you don't have to go even like bold colours. You can have like still have, I've seen them do it with some of the other girls there, but like just still a nice pale nude or a pastel, and then like you say, like a couple of dots in a complementary colour. Or another thing they do quite well is like just different coloured tips with a dot as well, which are like really simple, but you can have like a very pale pink nail with a slightly darker pink or a Barbie pink, so they still look quite subtle, but they look really fun.
I had a really good mani recently, which was like French colours, so like almost like a nudie base like I've got on now, and then with like a sort of milky white, rather than just having it around the tip, it was kind of like in abstract swirls.
Exactly.
So it felt quite chic and understated. So like I don't get a lot of nail art nails, but I wanted something a bit more fun.
But that's what I mean. I think really you can just, I think it's quite fun when only you know that they're kind of there, and then people might be chatting to you for 10 minutes and then be like, oh, hang on, your nails. Yeah. Sapna's had a sort of nice pale one with a silver tip recently,
that's nice.
which is, again, you wouldn't, it's eye-catching, but not like in your face and according to this teenagery. So I think, there are lots, basically everyone's doing that kind of stuff. I think there are lots of fun ways to,
I think it's pretty fun.
Just add a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Fun to your look.
Yeah.
Amazing. We will leave it there. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you've got any questions, do email us at podcast@sherlock.com. We love hearing from you. And don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, tell your friends. Thanks both of you for being here. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.